It's Nikki here. I'm here today to do my review for the movie to go with the book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Movie was under the same name. This review will have spoilers in it. I do compare it a bit to the book, so you have to have read the book to get some of it. Otherwise, I'll try not to spoil it too much, but honestly, if you've read the book, you're good. The movie is the same as the book. It's actually quite a good adaptation. It's this wacky adventure with these crazy kooky characters and just these odd, wonky obstacles. It's just as much fun to watch as it is to read. You follow a ragtag group of adventurers on their trip across the galaxy due to a harebrained scheme and a shockingly bureaucratic demolition. There's lots of craziness in the movie that is transferred over from the book, and I really enjoyed that they did that. The narrator for the movie was Stephen Fry, and he also narrated one of the versions of the audiobooks you could probably find online, so that was also really fun. Now that I've kind of summarized it here, I will go into my likes and dislikes for the movie. There were a lot of likes. I did enjoy that they kept that kind of this very wacky craziness in terms of tone about the movie that was in the book. Another like was that Stephen Fry was the narrator. If you watch my book review, you'll see it there, but I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook. He has a very expressive voice and did a really good job in the role, and the same can be said for the movie. He was tons of fun as the narrator, and he just has a way with the expressions in his voice that make the entire experience of the movie very enjoyable. Third like is that they kept the pacing from the book in the movie. So you get a lot of jumps forward, very fast paced. You get a few of those sideways jumps with some tangents, but overall, good quick pacing, very snappy, gets you from point A to point B to the end. My fourth like is that they handled the Babelfish really well. The way it's written in the story, it could have gone either way, but the way it was explained and the way they animated it worked really well. I thought it was pretty true to the book, and I was really impressed with it. And my fifth and final like that I'm going to talk about here was how they dealt with Marvin and how he was presented. He wasn't quite the same as how he'd been described in terms of physical appearance, but his personality was spot on for how he's written in the book, and he was just a lot of fun to watch, usually kind of fun to listen to, just with the pessimism. That kind of sums up all of my likes here. I'll move on to my dislikes. My big dislike was the dumb side plot that they don't really talk about in the book. The other presidential candidate, Hamakavula, it was just a weird side plot. It wasn't really necessary, and it added 15 minutes to the movie. It really wasn't necessary. Overall, it was pretty minor, but just like I said, completely unnecessary. I didn't really enjoy it to begin with. Another dislike I had is that they did cast a few actors that didn't fit the descriptions in the books. I think the actors did a fabulous job. I didn't like that with a couple of the characters where their descriptions were really specific, like with Trillian and Ford, that they filled it with actors who didn't fit those descriptions. I don't hold it against the actors. Like I said, they did a brilliant job and they really brought the roles to life. It was a little shocking to see them when they had been so nicely described. I just had been shocked that despite this description, that they went with people who didn't look like the characters. My third dislike is there's some unnecessary slapstick bits that weren't in the book. One of the scenes towards the end when they go to try to save Trillian is part of that, and just for how funny the book was and for how funny the movie was without it. The dry, witty humor and the goofy humor was good enough. The slapstick humor was unnecessary. And my fourth dislike was that deep thought wasn't really done the same way it was done in the book. It wasn't done too differently, but I really liked book deep thought, and having read the book after the movie, I was taken aback at how they managed deep thought. Like I said, it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't great. Pretty minor dislikes, although I did overall enjoy the movie. There were a few dislikes that really do stick out a little bit for me. That being said, that is all I'm going to say about my likes and dislikes. I'll move on. Shooting forward to the characters, I'll talk about them briefly here. One of the things I really liked is they were still just crazy and zany, wacky, and just super fun to follow. And they really cross the line back and forth from eccentric to crazy all the time, and a lot of them told that line through the entire movie. And the actors who portrayed the characters did a fabulous job. They really brought the characters to life. It was a lot of fun. The characters overall were pretty close to the characters in the book. They held all very similar roles with very minor changes, and most of that was just the appearance of the actor or actress that was cast for the role. They still focus on the main four and Marvin. Again, you have Zaphod Beeblebrox, who's the president of the galaxy, and he's just extra and on his own level entirely. You have Ford Prefect, who's the semi-cousin of Zaphod. He writes for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and has been stuck on Earth pretending to be an out of work actor. Third, you have Trillian, who's a female from Earth. She went on a trip with Zaphod Beeblebrox and has just been kind of having a zany adventure with him after leaving Earth. And then that leaves the fourth character, Arthur Dent. He's also a human of Earth. He more reluctantly left Earth due to its demolition, and he is now doing his best to acclimate to the galaxy as he now knows it. He got plucked off Earth by his friend Ford because he had saved Ford's life and they were good friends. That being said, that's all I really have to say about the characters. Overall, I still really enjoyed them from where they started off in the book and how they were portrayed in the movie. They played a good role and they really still increased my enjoyment. So with my summary, likes and dislikes, and characters out of the way, I will launch into my wrap up here. It was a fun movie with a lot of what I consider dry British humor, and it's one of my favorite kinds of humor. There's sly jokes, funny, like witty jokes, and I really appreciate that they kept that goofy tone to the movie that was in the book. It made it really enjoyable, and it's just one of those kind of sci-fi comedies that it sounds weird, but then you end up really enjoying it. So and one of my favorite parts is that it was fairly true to the book in terms of book to movie adaptation, which leads me to my book to movie adaptation score. This one I gave a 4 stars out of 5. It's very close to the book. There's a few changes in it and they're pretty minor, and they don't miss any of the major issues that come up in the book. Overall, the tone was the same. It was still a fun, enjoyable adventure with this like zany, crazy, mismatched group, and that it was really nice that came through in the movie. And because of that, like I said, 4 out of 5 in terms of book to movie adaptation. Now moving on to the movie itself. It's not a movie that I typically go out of my way to rewatch a lot. I have watched it a handful of times over the years since it's come out. If you're looking for like a really chill sci-fi movie, it's definitely one to consider. It does not take itself too seriously. It's an enjoyable, I don't know, like 1.5 hours. I really recommend it if you enjoyed the book and haven't seen the movie, or if you like that genre and haven't watched or read either. That being said, I'm only giving it a 4 out of 5 because as much as I do enjoy it, it's not my first choice when I'm looking for an easy movie to watch. It's enjoyable. It's just, despite how much I enjoy it and how well they did making it into a movie from a book, it's just very niche and you gotta be in the right mood to watch it. Same as reading it. It's great, but you have to be in the right mood. And because of that, the score as a movie unto itself, it's a little bit lower, only 3.5 out of 5 stars. That being said, I still recommend it. It's definitely worth at least one watch. That's really all I have to say. Remember, don't panic, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.